Hey. Okay, so Xenoblade X DE announcement trailer has been out for a couple days, and Nintendo of Europe had actually confirmed that there will be new content added into the game other than just the cliffhanger resolution that we've all been seeing and talking about. There will be new content added into the game, and I kind of wanted to go over and talk about what could possibly be added slash what I hope will be added. As I mean, if there's new content, how much content, how drastic will it be? Will it just be a couple of quality of life things? Will they add a whole new mechanic, a whole new section to the game? Anything. So I just kind of wanted to take this video to talk about some of the things, and I have a couple of things in mind of which they can add that would be very, very beneficial. The first one, and probably the most important one, at least for us content creators, is an event theater. A place where we can go and view all of the cutscenes in the game, just like all of the other games have. But for some reason, Xenoblade X is the only one without an event theater. I mean, I guess maybe because of the whole customizable avatar main character, but would it really be that hard to just take the model and like everything you're wearing at that point in time in the game and put it into the cutscene, kind of like how Xenoblade 3 does with the different outfits? It just kind of takes the model from your most recent save file and puts them into the cutscene. So I get Xenoblade X can do something like that, and this might actually be coming, because if you look at the original Xenoblade X announcement trailer back for the Wii U, Elma is wearing some custom gear here. This isn't her default outfit, but here in the DE announcement trailer, she is wearing her default outfit, along with Lynn and all of the other characters. They're all wearing their default outfits. So this, they could have just taken this cutscene straight from the events theater with default settings on. So there's a high chance that the event theater will come back, and I really hope it does, because this will make getting cutscenes for certain parts of the game so much easier. I can't even tell y'all how many times I've wanted to make a the tragic story of Lynn video, but getting the cutscenes are just so difficult without like having to go on YouTube to download them. So this will be very beneficial, and especially just going back and rewatching certain moments. So that one I really hope and think it will be returning for DE. Now this feature is also kind of tied to the main menu before you open the game, and this was actually a feature in Xenoblade 3D and exclusive to Xenoblade 3D. I made an entire video about it called "This Feature Exclusive to Xenoblade 3D is Amazing," or "The Feature That is Exclusive to Xenoblade 3D," something like that. You can see it on screen. But in Xenoblade 3D, you had not only a music player, but also a model viewer. So a music, like the standard music player, like you'd see in Smash or something, you just go through and play all the songs in the game, and then a model viewer where you get to kind of have a close-up look and inspect the models, like I said in the video, kind of like Metroid Prime Remaster. You can just go in and look at all of the models. Now we kind of have something like this in Xenoblade X already within the Blade Barracks. You can kind of set statues and all of that, but I mean, that's the closest we have. That's not really a dedicated model viewer that lets us go and look at the model, zoom in and all of that, and like high definition, good detail and all of that. So having a model viewer as well as kind of like a song player would also be very nice. Now these ones are far less likely than the event theater, and I feel like the song player is even more less likely than the what's it called? The model viewer. And given that Nintendo had recently just announced a music app where you can actually listen to Nintendo music through the app. It's like a full-blown music app. People are calling it Nintendo Spotify, where you can just listen to Nintendo's official music's full game rips and everything. So maybe eventually Xenoblade X DE will be added onto there, so we won't really need a music player in the game, but it would still be nice to have it there in case you can't have the app, or like you don't have a phone or something. So I mean, nonetheless, having a music player wouldn't really harm anything, and I don't think it would take that much work or effort to put in. It would be very nice, but I'd just be sitting there bumping The Way, Your Voice, and all of the other lyrical songs, just reveling in that. That would be so nice. But there are a couple other things that I think could possibly make it into Xenoblade X. This next one would be pretty huge, and this is an online multiplayer kind of thing. But as we know, for online, the biggest part of playing online with people is during the global nemesis fights, where it's basically you and 3 other people. I think it's a max of just 4 people. I'm not sure, it could be more than that, but because on the Nintendo eShop page for Xenoblade X, it says players are from 1 to 32, so apparently you can have 32 people online at once. I'm not sure how all that's going to work. Like I said in my previous video, it could have something to do with that data test where people can actually come into your world, your Mira, and y'all can all play together, kind of like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where you can have friends come to your world and y'all can just fuck around together. Maybe it'll be something like that. But regardless, global nemesis, where you and some friends can go and fight either Igolith Zero or Telethia Endbringer, and they have millions and millions and millions of HP, and y'all just duke it out. Y'all just fight the Endbringer or Igolith Zero for just a bunch of drops and rewards. And one thing that they could do is bring in a new nemesis. So instead of having those 2, they can bring in a 3rd one. And actually JB had touched on this in his video, so I'm going to play a little clip from his video to explain what that 3rd Igolith or that 3rd nemesis boss could be.
These are by far the largest piece of online content within Xenoblade X, as you go ham against both Telethia Plume and Yggdrasil Zero. But this also sets a potential interesting precedent. Before the original release of Xenoblade X, a version of the Zufag boss fight was planned to be a global nemesis boss battle before being scrapped, and there is a very real possibility that new bosses may be introduced for this online mode, possibly bringing this and maybe even some new global nemesis boss fights. That also, of course, gives Monolith Soft the opportunity to bring back other cut content from the game, which I made a whole video on.
Now, going on from that, this one would seem a bit less likely. This might be the least likely one to happen, but I was thinking kind of like an offline land of challenge type of thing, because we already kind of have like a challenge battle thing in Xenoblade X, but that's exclusive to online with like the squad missions and timed missions and stuff like that. But just having that, but making an offline version of it, or at least having that online challenge mode, I guess, being able to play that offline just by yourself with your own party. So having something like that would be nice, because all of the Xenoblade games have some kind of challenge mode, and even with Xenoblade 1 DE, it brought its own challenge mode, kind of reminiscent of Xenoblade 2's Land of Challenge. Xenoblade 2 didn't have one in base game, but then it got one with the DLC. Xenoblade 3 also didn't have one in base game, but came in with the DLC. Xenoblade DE had already had it from the jump and in base game as part of the definitive edition, so I'm hoping that Xenoblade X could also have something like that, where it just has a land of challenge in the game from the jump as part of the definitive edition. So I'm not sure how that would like conflict with the online version, or they can just make the online version offline but still keep Global Nemesis and everything online to be able to play with friends. I'm sure they can find some way to figure all of that out. This one is more of like a personal thing, and I don't really think is much of a needed upgrade to DE or would like make the game infinitely better. But one thing I personally hope for is that we get multiple save slots like we did with DE and Xenoblade 3. Xenoblade 2 only had one save slot, which it's fine, but I would kind of prefer if it did have multiple, because sometimes I want to go back through and replay the game on like a fresh save file and not on New Game Plus. But I also want to play on my account so I can just run up the playtime. It's a very weird personal thing, but I don't think that would really happen, since considering how massive of a game Xenoblade X actually is, having multiple save files of that would eat up a lot of storage. And the fact that Xenoblade X is only 15 gigabytes, that's a massive game, all right, for the Switch. And the funny thing is, like, Nintendo games, really most games around like 10 gigabytes or so, but anything around like 13 to 15 or higher gigabytes, you're like, whoa, that is a huge game in terms of like Nintendo, because they compress their files, and it seems like they're the only company who does. I don't know why that's so difficult for other companies to compress their goddamn files to 300-400 gigabyte games dropping on PC and stuff. So like obviously those are huge, and like 15 seems like nothing to them. That seems like maybe like an image in one of the fucking Call of Duty games or something. But in terms of like Nintendo, 15 gigabytes is pretty massive. So this game is already as huge as it is. I don't think it'd be able to handle multiple, like 3 of the same, like different save files of this massive world. So maybe I'm thinking about it wrong, and it wouldn't really add that much more storage for extra save slots. But having multiple save slots for Xenoblade X would be very beneficial. It'd be very welcome. But another reason I don't think that's really possible or will happen, because Xenoblade X is kind of an MMO, and MMOs don't typically have multiple save slots. It's just one big file, because there's so much diversity and so many different things you can do, so much content in the game. Having multiple save files wouldn't really be necessary. I don't know, but having at least 3 save files would be nice, preferably 5, but having just 3 separate save files would be more than welcome, because there's been so many times I want to go back and replay Xenoblade X, but I don't want to have to create an entirely new account or delete my save data on my account. So having multiple save files would be pretty nice to have. And I think that's all I want to talk about for now. I was going to go into and start talking about the new story content and what that could all be about, but I think I'll save that for its own video, because more content, I need content. But I also think that's worthy of its own video, because there's so many possibilities that could happen with that. And like I said before, I really hope it's called Future Frontier, because that name goes so incredibly hard. That would be so hard if they called the DLC. Hopefully if we are getting like a little epilogue side story like we did with Xenoblade 1 DE, we got Future Connected. So maybe here with Xenoblade X DE, we get our own little epilogue called Future Frontier. Like, that would be so cool. But anyway, I will leave that for its own separate video. But that's really it for this video. I'm sure there are a bunch of other things y'all would probably want to see in Xenoblade X, but I think these are like the biggest ones that would be the most helpful. So a cutscene viewer, easily, at least for me, because as a content creator, it is a hassle getting some of these cutscenes without being able to go and pick exactly which one I need. So cutscene viewer easily, a music player and a model viewer would also be nice, but as well as in-game having like an offline challenge mode, as well as new global nemesis fights. So those I feel like are the things that people would appreciate the most. I'm sure there are a couple of other small quality of life things that obviously they're already going to be putting in and making better than we thought. But I guess we'll just have to wait for the next trailer to see what actual new content will be in the game, because I'm sure the next trailer will actually show us what the new content will be like. So I can't wait for that. But that's it for this video. See you next mission and play some goddamn Xenoblade.